Hello everyone, Lloyd Moyer here. Um, Today I thought I would make a Christmas ornament. I make bunches of Christmas ornaments, different kinds. I do a lot of little snowmen that I sell a ton of and that we love. But this last year, I've started to make ones that are like lidded boxes. So they're hollow on the inside and then fitted together top and bottom. Um, I haven't done a whole lot of them, so maybe this will work out. Maybe it won't. I do glue them together, but it feels like a hollow, round globe ornament. So that's what I'm going to try today. So you can watch and see if I get it right. So the first thing that I'm going to do, I'll show you. I marked about where the center of this blank is lengthwise, um, and I'm going to mark that a little bit better with the parting tool, and then I'm just going to true the blank up. That'll do. I'm going to cut this piece in half eventually. When you're doing long grain work like this, can usually get away with a faster speed. And I am the first to admit that I am not an old pro with the skew chisel here. Um, so I don't know that I am the best person in the world to learn skew chisel technique from. But what I will tell you is you get better with practice. So practice, it helps. Um, the main thing with the skew chisel is you want to be cutting with the bottom half of the chisel. When you drift up into this area, that's when you start to get into trouble. You also can do, if the skew is flat on its side, you do what's called a peeling cut, where it's not scraping, but it's not all the way up like this. It's just sort of part way in between. I actually should have the tail stock up for this, but I'm just truing it up a little bit, so I'm not going to worry about it too much. Okay. I'm just going to true up the end using the parting tool. Can do this with the skew chisel also. The parting tool is really nothing but a small scraper. Um, but I'm still doing what is basically a peeling cut on the end there. All right, so what I'm going to be using, the way I'm going to do this, the plan is I'm going to have a groove or a lip on the end of each end um, that I can hold the piece in the smallest chuck. And then I will just shape it like a ball or, a Christmas ball, and hollow out the sides. And one side will have a flange and one side that will fit into the other side, and they will go together and look beautiful. That's the plan. And I think I am going to, no, I'm not going to bring the tailstock up. So first I'm going to, let's make a foot on the end here. So I'll be able to grab this with my smallest chuck. And if I'm being honest, it's not actually my smallest chuck, but I have pin jaws as well, but I find that those really don't do me any good. I don't ever seem to find much use for them. I'm just going to give myself a little foot here. My small jaws should fit into that. That can be a lot smaller, can't it? I don't have enough of these dividers, so I'm always having to adjust them for a different job. And then I put them back on and they're not working. Okay. So let's try this again. That's better. Okay. Now I'm going to part this piece off. There we go. So now, let's see what I have over here. So now I have one piece and the other piece, and they will fit together. And the grain will more or less line up, at least in one or two spots, when it is hollowed out. So now I'm just going to go ahead and hollow out this piece. I'm going to hollow it out before I shape the outside. Sort of the opposite, I realize, of the way you usually do it with a bowl. First, I just want to get rid of this little center piece, because I think I will employ my depth gauge here. So I want it to be about that deep. I have about a ½ inch in the chuck jaws. Okay. Now, one of the neat things that I've learned in the last year is back hollowing, what is called back hollowing. And I will demonstrate that for you now. I'm still practicing it. I'm still learning it. But basically what you're doing is you're going to turn into this hole and then you come up or out the other side. And what's counterintuitive is what's happening is you're riding the bevel on both the back side and the top side. And so you end up cutting with the top here, this top edge. And you're riding the whole bevel, so you can do that. And it's a very efficient way of hollowing in end grain. You only do this into end grain. You can't do this on face work. You see how much more efficient it is than the way that I'm cutting here. Okay. Now, the other thing that you're going to do, or that I have to do, I have to figure out which side is going to have a lip and which side is going to be the side that it fits into. I've always made the lid of the box first, which has um, the insert, so the lid fits over the base. So I'm going to make this the lid. And of course, the difference between an actual box and this is that I don't need it to have a suction fit or a really pleasant feeling open close, that comes from a long flange, because this is going to stay stuck. So I'm just going to do, let's call it a little more than that. That'll be enough to locate the two things. What you have to really be sure of with this, more so when you're making a box, less so when you're making an ornament, is that this is it's a cylinder on the inside, that it's straight. That will make a huge difference when you're fitting it all together. I'm just going to use the scraper here to get some weight out of this, some bulk. This is some of that Japanese cherry. It's a little dusty, I must say. Okay. Now I'm going to use my round nose scraper here, a little bit high because this is a thicker tool. And this is going to be like a Christmas ball. So it is meant to be rounded. Okay. How deep am I? So you can always just take a pencil, see how deep you are. That's where I am. It's right about there, which is right where I want to be. All right. So now what I'm going to do So I'm going to come around to the outside again, and I'm going to try and match the curve here a little bit. And I'm going to do that with a spindle gouge rather than a skew chisel, because again, I'm better at it with this. I do think it is very important to have in your repertoire, if you're going to sell, you know, if your intention is to make some things that you can sell, if you're going to try and make money at this, believe me, if I could make a living at it, I would. But as it is, I make a nice supplement to my income with this, and it's very important to have something that you can sell easily. You know, some things that you have in your inventory that you can sell for $20 or something. You know. All right. So one thing that's going to be important is to have some sort of a bead or a stripe or something right at the join, because where these come together, there will be a line. So if there's a little bead right here, and then maybe one on the other side as well, you won't notice that join. Challenge here is I have this right here. You know, I was gonna put a little glue in that. It's very dry, and this wood is not moving at all, but the glue will actually serve to shore up those fibers, so that too little too late, but now when I turn them, I hopefully can do it cleanly. Let's try this again. You ever get that glue on your skin? It's kind of a pain. Doesn't hurt, but it does get a bit annoying, I must admit. Okay. Now, I'll do a little better than that. What I'm doing there is I am filling the space with some wood shavings. Then the glue will actually filter into the wood shavings and fill it up. If this was a bowl that I was making here, some kind of a practical piece, I would turn that piece away. But because of the nature of what I'm trying to do here, that's why I'm trying to fill it, because I'm trying to maintain the area that the two pieces come together, because of the grain lining up. The further apart they are, the less you see the grain lining up. My mentors would not be happy with me doing this. Too much glue. They would say, cut it off and move on. I think that will be okay. So I'm not going to sand this right now because I still have more cutting to do. And I'm not going to sand the inside at all because the inside is going to be glued. All right, I'm just going to change chucks. So I've changed chucks, and I have what will be the top in the chuck now. And the first thing I'm going to do is fit the two together. So what I have to do is turn this lip down a little bit so that it fits together. So I'm just going to do this very little. You have to do this pretty carefully because it's very easy to go down too far. And I'm sure you'll see me do that. And this involves a lot of on and off of the lathe. So one way that it was described to me to do this is you do it at an angle, right? See if the two fit together. No, they don't fit together yet. And then you take it down to its lowest point, straight, and then do it at an angle again. Still not quite. We're getting closer now, though. Almost. Oh, man. Still not quite. What always seems to happen to me is I always get not quite, not quite, not quite, too much. Murphy's Law, you know? Nope. This part can be a little bit tedious, but you have to do it carefully. There you go. Found a spot that it fit. But see, that is so close to being too much. But that's where they'll fit together. And there's the grain lining up right there. Now what I want to do is actually take this back a little bit because where I have fit them together is the very widest part. Do that, and then I'm gonna take a little bit off the end. And really all I'm trying to do with this is figure out the diameter that I need to hollow out. There we go. And what I'll be able to do is actually fit this on there and then turn the bottom part of this. But Tiny little bits make big differences here. There it goes. That's it. Is that it? Yep. Of course, the challenge is then getting it back off again. There it goes. And I don't mind a tight fit like that on here because, again, I'm just going to glue them together. All right, now let's get the, I am going to use my depth gauge on this again. Taking that off has pulled it out of the chuck a little bit, so let's tighten that up. I'm showing you, you know, if I was just making bowls, I feel like I'm a pro at making bowls. But I figured, let me show you some things that I'm not 100% a pro at, you know? Here's a great example. This is now a little bit off center. I'm just not going to worry about it. Yeah. So we'll retrue it up. And again, I'm going to need another little bead on the end here where the join is. Which will hopefully match up with the, well, I will put it on and make sure that it matches up. So we're going to get into back hollowing here again. And again, you may be able to see it a little bit better here. I'm going to go into the middle, and then I drop the handle, and I raise the tool up. Go in, and then you raise up. In, raise up. You know what? I was gonna use my depth gauge here. About right there. That's about as deep as I want to be. Yeah. Out of the way. I can't overstate the importance in this hobby. If you want to get good at it anyway, if you want to get, or if you want to improve at it, you gotta do things that you've never done before. You know, you gotta try some of these new things. See something that somebody else made, man, I want to try that. I think I could make that. Give it a shot. So you mess it up, big deal. You learn something. You have an idea, try it. You're afraid of using nice wood, get some firewood. You know, if you're just trying something, it doesn't have to be perfect wood. Don't get dangerous wood. You know, I work with stuff all the time that has cracks in it. but learn to recognize, pay attention to the stuff that just is cracked um, and it's just not very nice, as opposed to the stuff that is cracked and is dangerous at coming apart. Because this is a really fun hobby, but it will mess you up too if you're not careful. And I don't mean to be alarmist, but like there is lots of stuff that we do in this hobby that is very dangerous. I got a very nice black eye once, crushed my finger once. There's plenty of stuff that we do that is really dangerous. When you're turning into end grain, just going to turn the vacuum on here. When you're turning into end grain, it is usually easier to use a scraper than a gouge for hollowing. Yes, I realize I'm hollowing with a gouge when I tell you it's easier to do it with a scraper. Where's my drop my bits? That is as deep as I want to go. Actually, almost as hollow as I want to go. Sorry, getting my head in the way there. I'm not going to be able to make this into a true sphere, but that also isn't really my goal here. Sorry, if I'm getting my head in the way. It's going to be spherical in nature, but it is not going to be a true sphere. Tried to do that a couple of times, and it's a fun exercise, but not necessary here. Okay. Turning end grain, you turn from the wider diameter down to the smaller diameter. When you're turning face grain, you do the opposite. It's all about how the wood fibers have support. beads stick out rather than in. Definitely have room for it, so that's what I'm going to try. What I'm going to want to do, I'm going to fit these two things together in a minute or two here. And what I'm going to want is to have, um, is to fit these together so that this curve travels through and into the other curve, so that it looks like it's all one piece. All right. What am I feeling? I'm feeling something sort of tapping me here. No? It's okay. All right. Now, I'm going to turn the vacuum off, I think. Turn it back on when we get to sanding. So, I'm going to line these up. How bad is that? It's just fine. Now for this, since I just have them together by friction, which is plenty, but just to be on the safe side, I'm going to bring the tailstock up. Just for a little added support. Just wanted to make sure you can still see what I'm doing, which it looks like you can. Now I'm going to finish this side. And again, I should probably be doing this with a skew chisel. What the heck? Let's give it a try. As I said before, what I'm trying to do is get this curve to match up with this curve. So it looks like that the beads sit on top of a solid piece. That's what I'm going for. Looks good to me. I know I just got done saying that when you're cutting into end grain, you want to be going downhill rather than uphill. But sometimes you need to anyway, and you go, the opposite way of the way you should be going. Sometimes you can get away with it. And I think I just did. Okay. But you can see where the line is here that I cut in the wrong direction. Okay. Now I'm going to take this off of here. I'm going to try and take it off of here. Because I want to check it. What do I have that I can use this? There we go. Ooh. Well, my friends, that actually seems pretty good to me. All right. So now I'm going to see if I can get these two fitted together. I'll be right back. So I noticed here that when these two were together, there was just a tiny little gap. And I checked to see if the flange and the whatever you call it, the recess, were not quite the right length, and they are. So what I think the problem is that there's a tiny little high spot right at the joint. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my skew chisel, and you can actually cut with the top. I don't know if you can see me here, the top part of your skew chisel right there. Just going to ever so gently right in there. Also doesn't have to be quite this tight. So I might just loosen it up just a hair. You can do that. You can do that with the skew chisel if you've got guts. No guts, no glory, right? Still Next, I'm going to try to actually shorten this flange a little bit. Because I don't need all of it. See how I'm cutting with the side of the skew there? All kinds of challenging stuff you're seeing me do here. No, it's still, I think it's just that it's too darn tight. Okay. This process, and it's the same for fitting a box. This process is painstaking and really have to be gentle and go very slowly because it's very easy to go too far. There, that's just right. That is just how I want that. Perfect. Probably could do this and not even have any glue. Okay. Beautiful. Next, I'm going to turn this around and grip it in a chuck so that I can finish off the other side. And then I will, actually, you know what? Here, let's do this first. First, I'm going to sand and finish this piece, the top piece. And we're going to start with 120 grit comes to hand. Let's turn on the vacuum. When I show you how I turn my other Christmas ornament, you'll see that with repetition, the process becomes much shorter. I told you at the beginning of the video that I haven't done very many of these. I've done a fair number of boxes, so I can make boxes pretty quickly. But stuff like this, I haven't done a whole lot of. So the process is still, it's not second nature, which is why this has taken me a little while. There's 120, 180. When you're doing long grain or end grain work like this is great practice because you can turn something impossibly thin in end grain and it's still pretty sturdy. So just for practice. That's where the I'm going to have the hole to hang piece. $220. And finally, $320. Now, what I should be able to do now is take this off of here. And just with my skew, just go right through here. Notice I said should. That's how sturdy this is. There we go. Also, doesn't hurt that this is a really hard, dry, old piece. Not old, it is very dead and dry piece of wood. I'm going to mark the very center of this so that when I come back to drill out the hole to put my hanger in it, I'll be able to. Notice also I'm not putting any finish on this. I will put finish on it once it's glued together. Okay, as you can see, I now have this part gripped in this chuck. I'm not so worried about the teeth marks that the chuck is leaving on that piece because that's going to be glued. So now I just have to take all of this off. Should be fun. And again, I'm going to do this with a spindle gouge to start with. And I'm not gripped on a great big piece of wood, and I'm not gripped super tight. I'm still trying to be a little bit gentle. So I'm taking a light cut here. I actually think that I'm not going to make this into a true ball because it's not spherical anyway. I thought it might be pretty if I did this coming down to a slight point at the bottom. It's the kind of thing that you can make, the kind of decisions sometimes you make on the fly. Of course, if it ends up looking bad, I can still make it spherical. Probably had my head right in that, didn't I? Sorry about that. Okay. Just going to pop this out of here and check the thickness. Oh, I'm in good shape. Yeah, plenty of room. I was a little worried it was getting a little bit thin, but it seems to be just fine. Of course, those are also famous last words, aren't they? Oh, there's plenty of room. Okay. Little hump right there. See if we can rescue the camera from falling over here. Okay. So sorry. I still feel a little hump right here. There. That takes care of it. Sorry, I'm a wood turner, not a cameraman, not a cinematographer. So I keep hitting the camera. I apologize. That was 120. This is 180. 220 here. And finally, 320. So what I have here, there's the bottom. There's the top. So I will come back and show you the finished product once I get it glued together, and I'll show you how I just put a hole in there and put some finish on it, and we'll be done. So in looking at this, I realized that treating this as the top and this as the bottom, the piece really looked upside down. Whereas if I turned it over, it looks like a Christmas ornament. So all I did was I just drilled a hole in the top here and put my little eyelet screw in there. And this looks much more like a Christmas ball. I like that much better. So I'm just going to glue the top and the bottom together. It's a very simple process. And I just use simple Gorilla Glue here. You could probably use acrylic glue also, but I like the Gorilla Glue because it's a little bit more, it's a little tougher. I feel like it's a little bit longer lasting than the acrylic super glue. And then I'm just going to put this in here and we'll spin it a little bit, hopefully, just to spread the glue out. And then we'll line up the grain the way we want it to line up. Just about one more over. Just about there. Now the grain lines up. And then I'm going to set this to dry, and I'll come back. It'll be tomorrow evening, and we'll put some finish on it. Okay, here we are a couple of days later. Everything is dry and solid and looking good. All that is left now is to put the finish on and to put the little hanger on. So I'm just going to start with some oil here. I often just use one of my old socks, but I had a paper towel handy, so. This, obviously it's a Christmas ornament, so it doesn't need to be, or holiday ornament, maybe I should say. It doesn't need to be food safe, but the food safeness is not the only reason I like this walnut oil. I like the matte finish. I like that it feels like wood, looks like wood, that it still gives a hard finish, and all of those things. So even for my pieces that don't have to be safe for food, I like to use the walnut oil. Don't underestimate your fingers as a useful mode of finish application, so long as it's not anything that's gonna hurt your skin. Your fingers can sometimes get into nooks and crannies that the paper towel or the rag or whatever doesn't want to get into. So then all I have left is just this piece of sort of holiday kind of ribbon. And I do not do this in a complicated manner. Of course, I'm on camera, so I will have a terrible time threading this through here, right? No, not too bad. All this gets is a good knot. It doesn't need to be super pretty. It's because the ribbon takes care of all the, you know, any prettiness that it needs to have. So it's just like that. And there's your, there is your finished ornament.